Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. We have a lot of great information lined up for you today. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com. And by the way, we're going to go over a very special piece of information. If you've ever had your phone stolen and you're scared about what could happen to your phone, we're going to give you a tip on how you can find your phone, even if it's lost and you don't have it and someone stole it. You're going to want to see that in the Freedom Zone. Click the join button under any title of the video, or in the description box, join us in Patreon. Either way, you're going to get it today. We're going inside. It's $3.41 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 1.6. Bitcoin, 107,000 plus, 2,400 plus for Ethereum. XRP, $2.17. Now we're off 1.2 into 24 and almost the same there on the 7 day. So we'll keep an eye on it. We're ranging between 216 and 221. So that's where we're sitting currently right now. I want to play for you this clip here of Kevin Maloney from iTrust Capital, the CEO, giving and sharing very important information about what may be coming, not only on iTrust Capital's platform, but for XRP. And boy, oh boy, I want you to take a listen to this right here. Shout out to Paul Barron for this interview.
Ethereum most likely leading the way in terms of activity. You got XRP in there, Solana. When you look at the tokens right now, what's the top ones? What are people trading and holding the most, outside of Bitcoin and ETH? Because we know those are the big ones.
Yeah, surprisingly, there's a very strong XRP army out there, and they are fanatical about XRP and the potential for XRP. We speak to Ripple often. We think they're amazing and sharp people. They have some innovative products coming down the pipeline. We'd love to work with them at some level to allow the XRP army, these fanatics that really are excited about the potential to do more with their XRP. So that's a big one.
That is a big one, because it sounds like he's talking about earning some kind of yield or rewards or fees or something. And I couldn't be more excited, because we already know that they have something big coming. Paul Barron says something is coming that XRP army is going to love. I say, is it yield? That's what I'm wondering. And if it is, will we be able to take advantage of it both in the IRA that they offer or the new premium custody account? I got to tell you, if they come out with some kind of a yield product, he's hinting towards something. So, something's coming. I don't know exactly what it is, but just imagine for a second this closed loop system with the PCA, where you really are safe from hacks. You go in with your crypto or cash, but you got to come out as cash, more importantly, which means it can only come out to your checking account. So in the worst situation possible, you get cashed out and it goes to your checking account, right? So, to me, that's phenomenal. Now, I also want to build on that. And if we're reading the tea leaves right with Kevin Maloney in the Paul Barron conversation, maybe we're about to see the opportunity for yield in one or both of these products. And if so, then that can go right cashed out. Your fees or rewards or yield or whatever they end up calling it ends up going right out to your checking account every month, and you never, ever have to sell your XRP. And isn't that the holy grail? Don't mess around. Go to itrustcapital.com/XRP Army and check out both the IRA and the PCA account, which are phenomenal. And again, if you're just a long-term holder, I could tell you the PCA account is going to be just what you're looking for, because it's a closed loop system to help protect you in ways that you cannot get on other platforms. No question about it. Click the link below and get started today. Fed chair says stablecoins are a positive step, and we're getting the legislation. Take a listen to Jerome Powell.
And so yes to that question. Let me say on stablecoins, if I can.
Yeah.
I do share the concerns that you hear here, but I also think it's a positive step that we don't have a regulatory framework for these now in the United States. We tried very hard in the last Congress to work with people on both sides of the aisle to create such a thing. Now it looks like we're well on the way to creating a framework, which I think is something we need. You know, if we're going to have stablecoins, and apparently we are, we need to have a federal and state level regulatory framework, which I think we're making progress towards having.
And we are indeed, no doubt about that. A lot of things happening on Capitol Hill, but let's look at this right here as this number is growing really to an impressive number here. Monthly transfer volume, 2.6 billion plus here. We're talking about the real USD is growing quickly, especially if you compare to other stable coins. While growth is more or less stagnant amongst the top 10 stable coins by market cap, Ripple's USD grew with an impressive 51% over just the last 30 days. And monthly transfer volume is up 89%. And those are, in fact, impressive numbers. No question about it. Shout out to Anders. Give him a follow. And here we see this. I love this statement right here. You know, banks issuing their own stable coins. Is it overrated or underrated? Let's take a listen to Brad Garlinghouse while he sits on stage with Monica Long.
Banks issuing their own stables. Underrated, overrated? And then there's a follow-up question. So
I'll go first on this one.
Yeah.
I think that also is overrated. In some ways, we've had banks playing with this idea for a while. You know, JPM coin has been out in the world for as a concept like 6 years, I think. Mm-hmm. The challenge is if you know JPM does this, is Citibank going to accept JPM coin? Is B of A going to accept? Is DBS? Is MUFG? You know, you almost need a neutral player and neutral.
And isn't that neutral player someone like Ripple and Real USD? And all those banks can white label that digital dollar if they wanted to, but it's still the real USD. It sounds like the play he's making. Keep listening.
Players. And look, I think Tether is going to continue to be a successful player. And you almost need a neutral player.
And this is why I call Ripple the Federal Reserve 2.0 in the new digital on-chain economy. Because you almost need that neutral player. Well, who is it?
And neutral players. And look, I think Tether is going to continue to be successful. I think USDC is going to continue to be successful. I also think there's an incredibly exciting opportunity around RLUSD. The momentum is very positive. You know, one of the things that people don't know, I've said it a little bit publicly, but there was a period of time where Ripple was minting 20% of all USDC. Yeah.
Now, see, when he brings that brings up to me, it's such a great point. Well, there's 20% of business that Circle doesn't have anymore. And we already know they pay 50% of their profits to Coinbase. And we already know we're looking at least 1 percentage point coming down on the interest rate cut, which is going to squash the margin for Circle even more. And this is regardless of a highly successful IPO from Circle, which I'm very happy for them for. So listen to the last bit here.
So you know, people ask me, why did you guys jump in? You're like, well, we're already minting. We were, if not the #1 minter of USDC, we were #1 or 2. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why don't we actually lean into this market, particularly around our customer segment, around institutional use cases? And I think many people now are increasingly understanding some of our strategy around Hidden Road and how Hidden Road can really drive significant adoption in expanding the stablecoin market. We're not trying to beat USDC or Tether. I think those will continue to thrive.
That's exactly right. They're going after markets that no one else has tapped into yet. That's what he's saying there. And here is Ripple's Jack McDonald, Senior VP of Real USD Stablecoin, saying where they believe they will be with Real USD in the next 18 to 24 months.
And Jack, where does Ripple hope for RLUSD to be, 18 to 24 months from now? You know, what is are there any goals, any milestones that you're seeking to reach in terms of adoption and penetration of the market?
I mean, 24 months from now, we certainly expect to be, you know, it depends how we define them, but certainly one of the top 3 regulated US dollar-backed stable coins in the world, if not higher.
If not higher. Okay, there's a plan there, ladies and gentlemen. And then there's also a third version of stablecoin, tokenized gold, silver, platinum, palladium. Listen to this.
A couple of the ways that we might find some new solutions is actually in the new technology, blockchain very specifically. I'm aware of a company right now that is probably going to be able to reduce the prices at the grocery store significantly by streamlining the coupon process and doing this much more efficiently for Coca-Cola, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is going to change the game and bring a lot of value to the average family that they didn't have before. But then also the Stablecoin Act, which just went through, is another one to be paying attention to. This is now going to be the primary driver of treasury purchases. Many people don't know this, but stablecoins are purchasing a long-dated treasury underneath them. We need an answer right now as a nation as we continue to print and print and print. We don't have an answer to not do that. And so, but it also made provision for above ground assets. And Scott, I think that there's a third version of stablecoin that will be coming out here in the next year or so. I hope to be a part of this organization doing this, but this would be real world assets and tokenizing them like gold, silver, platinum, palladium, leaving it in the ground where God safely put it and turning that into a coin that we can absolutely share is literally there. And so if we can do these by stable coins, I think that we can ultimately see more stability in some of the finances and ultimately see a system go from being fiat backed to more asset backed, which I think ultimately everyone agrees is a more fair idea as the strategic wealth reserve of our nation is figured out, et cetera.
Now, it's interesting that he talks about, look, we already know that you got projects out here on the XRP Ledger that are tokenizing gold and precious metals. That's not a new thing. What's new about this is he's talking about tokenizing these precious metals that still have deposits in the ground and tokenizing what's in the ground. Think of it. I mean, okay. All right, let's keep going. Now, the latest here, Bybit officials launches Bybit EU, a fully MiCA-compliant platform for European crypto users, offering regulated access to over 450 million EEA residents across 29 countries. Yeah, this is the kind of adoption we're looking to see. And this is too. Robinhood announced, and we covered this yesterday, but you got to hear it again. Just because you hear big news once, it doesn't go away. It's all speaking to a bigger story, a bigger picture. Robinhood just launched tokenized stocks in the EU also, right? And what do we have here? Marcus Infinger giving a comment on Robinhood's announcement. He said a lot has already been said about Robinhood's announcement this week, and rightly so. The launch of tokenized equities in the EU by a company like Robinhood is a big deal. Before I read any further, I want to let you know, Robinhood's announced they're doing a layer 2 on Ethereum, but we also know that Robinhood bought Bitstamp, and Bitstamp was tokenizing derivatives with the help of Ripple and the XRP Ledger. So just keep all of that in mind as I read forward here. So here's what it means, says Marcus. He says here, he said the launch of tokenized equities in the EU by a company like Robinhood is a big deal. Here's what it means. EU customers will be able to access commission-free 24/7 trading tokenized U.S. stocks and ETFs, including names like NVIDIA, Apple, and Microsoft. And EU investors in the tokenized stocks will have the same user experience as U.S. investors buying the underlying stock. What's more, tokens tied to private companies such as OpenAI, SpaceX will also be offered, unlocking private equity assets that have traditionally been out of reach for most investors. But more than that, it signals broader themes. Public blockchains are becoming the backbone of modern financial markets. Real-world adoption will happen in jurisdictions which set out clear regulation. Public chains like XRP Ledger deliver what legacy systems and permission DLTs can't: real-time settlement, built-in compliance, operational efficiency, and access to 24/7 liquidity. Europe is leading by example, showing what can be enabled when innovation is met with regulatory clarity. The Robinhood announcement reinforces what I believe for a while. Tokenization isn't the future, it's happening now. Blockchain rails are going mainstream. Capital markets as we know them are transforming fast. Now's the time for all of us to seize the opportunity represented tokenized finance. How about that? I love it. And shout out to Marcus Infinger for that information and his insights. The European Central Bank Governing Council on Tuesday approved a 2-track plan that will utilize central bank money for distributed ledger technology transactions. Yes, they will. There's the article right there. And here's what you need to know is that Europe on the XRP ledger, yeah, that's what's happening here from the Digital Euro Association, which, by the way, was put together by the European Central Bank.
That's where RippleNet starts to play into this. So essentially it's Ripple that has the plug and the potential lead on being able to participate in the digital euro. And with that being said, you have to look at the Digital Euro Association, which is also partnered with Ripple. Their statement right here was Digital Euro is delighted to announce a partnership with Ripple, supporting partner jointly working on the CBDCs and Ripple. So again, this could be interesting as we start to see this play out. If in fact they are concerned that the United States could be taking the lead on the global scale, and of course you've got Christine Lagarde and the EU looking at that. You look at what's happening on the RLUSD front, and of course you have to look at the acceleration of RLUSD. This was back in early January when it first hit, and it already had started to take and move up the ranks in terms of volume, and that may have been what started to get the attention of the EU and said, hey, we got to get moving on all this.
So there you have that. And who doesn't love seeing that piece of information? I know we all do. Look, I can see it coming together, and I know you guys can too. But let's hear from David Schwartz, who talks about the frustration of not being able to use the XRPLedger DEX. But you know what? Unlocking that means unlocking massive liquidity. And I think the legislation is about to allow for all of that to happen. Shout out to Andrew DeVillipus for this original post.
And a thorn in the side of Ripple for a long time has been the fact that we can't use the XRPLedger DEX for our own payments products. Like this just, I want to rip my hair out. So like it's obvious that we would do that. And it's frustrating that endlessly frustrating that we can't. And the primary obstacle is that Ripple is a regulated institution. Right. And if our trade like passes through a terrorist or somebody who's sanctioned by the United States, it doesn't matter whether we knew or could have known, or basically if there's a chance that that can happen, we just can't do it.
Right.
And so we have not been able to use the DEX. And it's just, And so permission domains will enable a domain in which you have to prove you're not a terrorist to get into that domain. And so that will mean that like lots of ordinary people, I made the joke at my other presentation, I said, you know, all of us could get into that. Probably not that guy in the second row. Yeah. That joke killed earlier. But I mean, the idea.
I love how he goes, oh, that joke killed earlier. That's incredible. I got to have it again. It's so fun.
Probably not that guy in the second row. Yeah. That joke killed earlier. But I mean, the idea is that these will not be just institutions to institutions. Why put that on the XRP ledger, right? That should be on a private ledger. But the idea is that ordinary people will be in these permission domains. They'll be able to provide liquidity. They'll be able to consume liquidity. They'll be able to arbitrage between inside and outside the domain. And finally, enterprises that want to use the DEX to settle payments and move assets and provide liquidity on the DEX will be able to do so. So I think it's going to be very significant as part of the sort of wave of institutional adoption. And those higher flows and those higher volumes on the DEX are going to bring value to all of the developers on the ledger.
There you have it right there, ladies and gentlemen. And as I have believed, it is the legislation from the United States of America that will be the catalyst to unlock not only XRP, but I believe the entire digital asset space. That's what's coming for all of us. And we know Rosie Rios, the former U.S. Treasurer, is on the Ripple board. But why? Why is she on the Ripple board?
For the very first time. You know, crypto has been in the news time and time again. And I just want to share that I am on the board of Ripple.
Yeah.
Ripple is XRP.
And tell us why.
And so when people ask me the question, why did you join the board of Ripple? I joined the board of Ripple because XRP serves a purpose. It's a function that facilitates cross-border payments. It's not some store of value, kind of arbitrary value that is not pegged to anything. This is actually what legitimate financial institutions use, specifically for cross-border payments. So instead of days and dollars, it's seconds and cents.
And there you have it right there. And doesn't it make sense that we see real USD mounting up in volume although we're not seeing it being used every day out here just yet, we know that that's institutions and enterprises taking positions in it before it really gets going. What else is exciting to me is that we know that when we get the legislation, David won't be frustrated anymore because everybody will be able to use the DEX, including Ripple. This is where things are about to unlock. This is why everyone in the space up until now has had the luxury of being able to talk trash on XRP. Well, soon that will be over. Soon it will be over because the new roadmap is going to look more like this. And don't forget, FedNow goes live this month with ISO 20022 and a whole bunch of others. Now, I'm not suggesting for a second that that's going to affect price immediately. I'm just suggesting that that is a next wave of adoption and implementation into the financial system. And that is a step I've been waiting for, like I know you have. Ed Greg Crypto shows an old chart here, old chart, new chart. And basically what he's showing here is all the way back in 2022, the chart was showing him these numbers. And you know what? And looking at the new chart, he's seeing the target there. And the target and area confirmation puts us between $22 and $27. Now, that wouldn't be too bad to get this party started, now would it? Look, it's not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. Again, going into the Freedom Zone. Listen, you could join for next to nothing. For less than the cost of a cup of coffee, you could join us in the Freedom Zone every day. And let me tell you, we do extra content, all the daily videos with 0 Google ads. That's what you're getting, number one, worth the price of admission. The extra content today, we're going to show you how to find your lost phone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, even after someone has stolen it from you. You're going to want to see this information, especially now in the state we're in with crypto. Again, not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the Freedom Zone right now. So come on in. All right.